And again, I apologize for the questions. I know something really weird happened. Which one? What points? No, I gave you extra time for that. So I swear I updated the questions since I don't really just reuse from last semester. I always update the question. I figured out I updated everything and I saved and uploaded it. For whatever reason, that file didn't save and sync properly. And like a first draft was uploaded and forgot who emailed me at 10 o'clock next morning. I was like, I have a question about forecast. I was like, what? And then I opened the file we uploaded. I was like, crap. So, and I couldn't find a trace of it. So I had to redo it.
It says the due date's Friday the 25th, so it's just Friday, right?
It's Friday, isn't 25th? It's supposed to be the 20.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad. Okay, so here's your points. I'll update. I think I made sure the due date on the homework itself says the 20. No. Oops. Let's fix that right now. Who said nice job? No, you don't. Still Friday. And Friday at 7 p.m. So nobody will be marked late. Okay, now we're good.
Are you then going to post like the solutions to this like right afterwards?
Yes, that's why usually I didn't want to leave it for the weekend because I know you guys want to look at the weekend for the midterm. But we're gonna go over it quickly right now. So this function has two pieces. The first one. First, I want to use this example because you're already aware of the logic. I don't care about the logic. You already figured out from train of thought how you're going to do it. Now the question, how you're going to do it in VBA rather than just a regular formula. So this is basically what this question is about. So it's about just creating one function and which can account for these two conditions. So right off the bat, you know, you need to check for two things separately and you need to then combine them as the output, right? So initially, you have two things to define. The rate, what is the rate? And based on the rate and the amount, what would be the base commission? And then you need to check if you need to multiply that commission by 1.5 by an additional half or not. There's multiple ways to do it. There's no one right way. There is a simple way and a long way, and whatever in between. And all that I'm talking even just consider one function. You want to do multiple functions, be my guest, you don't need to. And I'm not going to deduct any points for doing that. As long as, again, the goal is I go to this, to the workbook, whatever that is. If I open the workbook, I put here calcom, and I pass the sales amount and the date, and gives me answer. That's all I need to know. And if the answer is right or not. If you give me the right answer, you get full grade. And if how your logic works, I don't care. And of course, again, I will show you the right one to do it, or the simple way to do it. Now, on a high level, I'm not going to solve it for you now, but the trick is, which most of you don't know, probably not very familiar with, needs a little bit extra work, is how to use variables, right? Remember, this is the very first example we used for a macro. When we declare a variable and we make this variable hold a value, and then we assign this value.
Yes, the other person is the professor.
Okay. Who do you have on the call? Oh, yeah, okay. So for that variable, basically, I'll give you a hint here. When you calculate the commission, have that commission saved in a locally defined variable with the right type. Once you're done with that nested if statement, you know that variable will hold the actual commission. And then testing against the value of the date, you can decide if this commission needs to be multiplied by 1.5 or not. And the outcome of that needs to be outputted. That will be assigned as the output of the function. I don't know if I could make it any simpler than that. You repeat that? Sure. One last time. It's being recorded, so you can see it. So, no, I want you to understand how we can use a variable is basically a temporary placeholder of a certain value to be used later. At the end, the goal of the function, let me draw on the board a little bit. Actually, hold on. I think I can use a little bit of technology. So the function basically is a box, right? This is a function. You have input, in this case is a sale value, and we have a date, correct? The output is the commission. Now within this, if I want to just, this function, I want to just look inside this. So the function basically, you take the date, or you take the sales value. From that, you calculate the base commission. Correct? And then from the date, so I'm using my finger, but you can calculate the, from the date, you calculate the multiplier. And from these two, calculate the output separately. So this is the logic you need to think about. You can start with either one because they're independent. So you need a placeholder for the base commission, and then you need a placeholder for the multiplier, ideally. There's shortcut for that. After that, once you identify is it 1 or 1.5, you need to multiply based on month. And from the sales value, you identify how much the commission is. The output simply will be the multiplication of both. You either multiply the base commission by 1 or 1.5. So go back here. So this is basically you need to create two variables with the right type. So what type would be the commission variable? It's going to be double, not integer, because integer is a whole number. You need a number. You need a variable that can handle decimal points, and that's typically a double. Give you one more hint. If you have a date, how to get the month out of date? Month. So here, let's create actually a quick test function called getMonth. And the input will be input date as date. So getMonth, the function equals will be simply month of input date. Return actually as integer, you're right. So if I go back here, this is spreadsheet number 1. So here's new one. The date. Let's pick a date here. Let's say it's March 3rd, 1965. Equal getMonth. This is in, okay, I need to put it in a module because this is in that sheet. It's visible to all worksheets. getMonth of this date. Great. So this is similar to the built-in function base. We wouldn't reinvent anything. This is exactly the month function built in. So same way you can use a month here, or you can, in VBA, you can also use the same month function, or it's the VBA equivalent of that. When you pass in a date, it only gets returns back the month number. So you can check against this to see if you need to multiply by 1.5 or not. I'm not sure if I can say more without really solving it for you guys.
We don't know.
I know you wouldn't. Then I have to assign 100% grade on the other part. And that will be 0. Actually, will be negative 10. Okay. So what's this? Any other question on this one? I think one question came up about the color scale when I mentioned, what is that? Good question. Here. Typically, you can use green to white, but what I meant the green-red scale with the green the highest. There's different color scale. It is green, exactly. So under precision formatting color scales, you have different ones. So the green, red, white. As long as the green and red, it doesn't matter what's in between. Oh, hold on. I think I stopped sharing. Let me. Not this one. This is a bonus question, basically. I mean, if somebody gets the condition formatting wrong, then that's bad. Any other question on the homework? Yeah. Depends. Okay. Let me pull the file we worked in last. When was that? Instagram. So initially, what do you do? Let's say we have this data from between 0 to 100,000, right? You try to do it equal min from min to max, and then you look what you're gonna get. Ideally, you would like a histogram that shows you these like main quartiles, so 25%, 50, 75. But then you saw that went immediately to almost 80%. So you don't know the median is somewhere between these two. It doesn't show you the median, which is a key point. So then you need to break this up a little bit more. So this doesn't show you the median because it went from 0 to 80, the first part. So this is what you need to break this up. So this was the second attempt basically down here. Instead of going from 0 to 100,000 or 120, we did from 0 to 20,000. And then we basically anything above 20,000 was considered as one category, one bin. And this basically allows you to show a little bit more breakdown. Where's your median, where's your 50%, where's 25%, and so on. Gives you a better visibility of your data. Those from min and max. I check what's the minimum value of my data, what's the maximum number, and then I divide my bins equally between min and max, and then I see how that works. So in this case,
see how your numbers are like 0, 0, our numbers are like 2,908.
This is the frequency. This is how many occurrences you have less than 10,000. How many between 10,000 and 20,000?
Yeah, no, but the bin itself, doesn't it come like, when you divide it, it doesn't come to like a round number, it comes to like...
No, this is like, okay, the maximum, no, you create yourself, exactly. So the data basically, if you want to look at min and max, is 250 and 110,000.
Yeah, for this
so I don't have to start with 250, I'll start with 0, or I start with 1,000. So because when you start your bin with 1,000, the number next to the 1,000 is everything like 1,000 or 10,000 and less.
How many bins are you looking for?
Yeah.
Whatever your range is, you need to play with your data. So in this case, for example, you can make 100, you make it 2, you may make it 3. As long as it shows you something, you ended up with the curve like this one. That the key is to show where's the median, where's the 50%, equals to 25% and 75%. So this will give you good visibility of your data, and ideally you want the bins to be equal. Yes. For the example quartiles and 75. Number. Yes, I mean, if you end up with the distribution, they're going to show you 25 and 50, and it's going to most probably show you the 75 as well. So if you end up with the data, let's show you like one thing is at 45 and then 60, and then disconnected. God knows when. It's been recording, obviously. Okay. Okay. Yes. Let me reduce the font size a little bit. This is too big, actually. Give me just 1 second. Yes, you have a question? So yeah, always follow the structure. I mean, the cool thing about VBA editors is it's color coded. I mean, if you mistype something where you expect it to be blue, the keyword's always in blue. So even if I, let's say, remove and if, and I come back here, and I want to run this, say if I call it, I hit enter, it's going to give me error. And it will tell you exactly, you have a block of if without and if. So you open an if statement and you didn't close it. So that tells you that you need to close the if block. And F5. And anytime you get this yellow line, see, now I get variable not defined here. Anytime you get this, you want to stop it, you do the stop debugging or reset.
What did you do again?
Hold on.
Oh, yeah.
Just stop or reset on top. See, temp tags not defined. And the reason actually I got this error because I specified option explicit like I showed in the lab last time. When you put these two words on top of your module, this will prevent you from accidentally mistype a variable name. It will warn you that, hey, it will try to consider as a new variable, but it will tell you that you haven't defined it. Then you'll realize, you mistyped a valid variable, just the name it didn't match. It's just more of a safeguard. So it's a good practice to put it. Okay. So let's see how we can use and or functions. So let's take this example. 2012 and 2013. Let's check a condition, for example. If, let's say, sales is above 3,000, or they all above 3,000. Okay. So let's set two conditions, for example, based on change percentage and based on sales. What would that be? Let me get some data. Let's say if sales above 5% and above 4,000, where's the VBA code? Okay, I'll talk about it. Let's check, for example, if a country is doing like, we can call it high performance. If sales about in quantity above certain level and percentage also above certain level, then we flag those as high performance, yes or no. So let's call it high performance, is high performance. We have two inputs here. First input is the sales percentage as double. We'll take this as is. And sales 2013 also as double. And the output will make it Boolean, either yes or no, true, false. And it's simple, so we can say let's create a local Boolean variable, then TMP for temp output. you can name it whatever you want, as Boolean. So what are the two conditions are? And hold on. By default, let's do the if condition first. So what's the first condition? If sales change is greater than what? We said is greater than 5%, which is 0.05. So this is the first condition, put it between parentheses. And second condition, sales 2013 greater than 4,000. Then TMP output equal true, else well TMP output equals false. And if. Same way you can check instead of and, you can do or. If you want to test if this condition or this condition, you can do that. Actually, we can do or. Let's say either performance, we consider that. Okay. If either of these conditions is true, it will return true. Now, how can we simplify this? First, let's use it here.
Yeah, we didn't define temp output.
Hold on a sec. I think, where did we use it? This is in which file? I think I used the wrong file. Probably. Yes, we used the wrong file. Good. Because I think I closed the other one. Or no, actually I did not. Sorry. Sales category. This is where it is. So high performance equal is high performance. No, it's high income. High performance. The first one is the percentage, comma, 2013 sales. True or false? All
We
false.
didn't define it, right? Because we used temp, but then we didn't say that.
Oh, yeah.
high performance equals
I
temp.
didn't set it out. So is high performance equals TMP output. Thank you. Yes.
Can you instead of the TMP output just put high performance?
You can put it here like this.
And
Yes.
just take out the, okay.
You can, and then take this out and take this out. Yes. You could do that. I'll show you why I want to do it this way for another reason. Okay. So this one way of doing it. So if I come back here,
Forget to do at the bottom.
at the end, because I used a temporary variable, I didn't assign it as output. I didn't say is high performance equal temporary output. So every time, here's the thing, every time you define any variable as function as Boolean, the default value is false. That's why it showed all false, because I didn't assign any other value. There's no chance that is high perf can have any other value. So now when I go back and test it, now we get some truth. Now here actually a good way you can use conditional formatting. You can use highlight cell rules, set it equal to, leave it as red when it's false. You immediately can tell which true, which is false. So a way to simplify this, once you declare a temp output as a Boolean, even though the default is false, you can automatically set a default value. As Boolean. Actually, with Boolean, it's just automatically false. So I can do it just to keep it clear to you guys. Before I go into the if statement, I can assign it as false and can simply say it is false unless one of these two conditions is met, then it's become true and then it will be assigned. So sometimes you may want to assume a value and then you check a condition. If the condition doesn't go through, then nothing changed. You go through it. Otherwise, you'll assign the new value and you'll exit. Not every if statement has to be in else. They have to be that has to have else statement, else part. Whatever in else, it could be assumed as default, and then you check for that condition. If this is true, then it will change. Otherwise, it will go after it outside and will be assigned. That's it. Is it clear how this ends up with the same result like the else? You assume it's false right off the bat. Or like another commission, could you assume it's 0 unless you find otherwise. Then you check if any of these two conditions is true, then this value will change to true, and then that value will become down.
Is it like a while the condition is there?
No, while is a loop. This is just one pass. So again, the and or is very simple. So you can test for one condition or multiple. You can add one more or and with it. If you're testing for 3, you can add 3 conditions. Clear? Okay. So now let's see how we can call this function from a macro or a sub. So we saw the first time when we created a macro to assign a value to a cell. And again, I want to reiterate, when you create a function, create the function in a universal way. Don't reference any cell or any specific worksheet in a function. Function should be accessible from anywhere. It shouldn't be specific to any specific area. So let's say I want to use the same function here, but within a macro. This is cell what? I7? Okay. So there's different ways to create a macro. You can either just type it, start with sub for subroutine or macro. You name it called assign high performance. Or, let me cut it. The simplest way is to go to developer, macros, why is it allowing me to create a new one? Okay. I'm not sure why this is not allowing me to create. Ideally, I should be able to create a new one here. That's fine. So let's say the macro I prefer if it's specific to a specific sheet. So what you can do in the VBA editor, you go to that sheet. This one is nested if categories, right? This one. So I double click on this one, and then I create a new macro, sub, assign high performance, and sub. So which cell I'm trying to assign a value here? It's I7. So it said cell. So we have 2 ways to reference to cell. You can either use cells object, which is then you have to specify which row and which column by number. So on the row side is easy. This is row 7. But which column? This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You see, this is cumbersome. So let's try the first one. So it's row 7, column 9 equals what? Is high performance of what? Now here in VBA will give you the inputs. So I will say, I'm trying to say to Excel, in cell 7-9, put the value that's a return of the function is high performance, but now I need to provide the input to this function.
2 more cells.
2 more cells. So for which column are these? If I go back here, they are column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Column 5 and then column 3. They have to be in the same order. So the first one, the percent change is cells. Row index has to be the same one, 7. And this is column 5. And the second one, cells number, also row 7 and 3. And then I close it. So, yeah, so we start row column. So let's put it here and let's run it. So to run this, you can go to macros. Now you're going to see it. You can run it. And then notice something. What's the difference between this and this? He only gave you the result. Here is you call the function, still dynamic. So what would happen if any of these values change? This will update, this will not. This is basically give you the result of whatever value these two had at that specific moment when you run it.
You can't refresh it?
You can refresh, yes, you can run it again. Let's say if this becomes, just for the sake of testing, 4,000. It's already true, actually. Let's make this, hold on, 37. So this is, notice, if the percentage went below 5%, this turns into false. This stays true. Now, if I run this again, I can run it by, I put the cursor anywhere between sub and end sub, and I can hit run. This is the other way to do it. Now it gave me false. So I have to run it again.
There's no shortcut from the spreadsheet.
There is a shortcut, we'll get to that. So again, you either can do macro, select this one and run it, or also in the developer, you can insert a button. And this button you can assign, either create a new macro or assign an existing one, which I did. So let me start again. Insert, form controls, button. I put it anywhere I want. It's going to ask me to assign a macro. Either I create new or I select one that's already created. If I create new, I'll undo it, just to show you. If I click new, you're going to see a new macro, empty one, just like tab code, button click, you put your code here. But we're not going to do that. So let me delete this again. So insert, button. I select the macro we created, and I hit OK. Then I put check high performance. Oops, and I can make it slightly bigger. So now anytime I click it, it gets executed. So let me change this back to 3600. So now I get 6%. See, this is updated to true. This is still false. I check it. So it runs it for you. So you create a button to trigger that macro. So you don't have to open VBA editor to run your logic. Sure. So this is what's called the code behind.
There's any way to see if it's refreshed since the last time or not?
There's multiple way. You can use message box. You can say refresh complete.
So what does the first 7.5 do, and what is the second 7?
So the 7.9, this is this cell, row 7, column 9. I'm assigning, say, the value of this cell should be the output of this function is high performance. This function takes 2 values as input. You need to provide the 2 inputs, go through this function, gives the output, put it in this cell. Okay?
Can the column be like C, D? Instead of counting them, just put the color, please.
That's next. If we have time, yes, we have time. So every time now, since I added this message box basically is a pop-up, just delivers whatever message I put in here. Just at least I know it went through this. So now if I click it, I get refresh complete. So I know it got executed. I hit OK and close. Okay. Now the easier way to do it, let's copy this, create another one, assign high performance 2. Instead of cells, we'll use another reference called range. Now this is easier because you can specify range is exactly equivalent to a selection like this. This is a range. So what is this range? This range is D8 to E11. At the same time, this is a range of one cell. So I can say range, and this here you can use the letter I7 you can. Now this is, what is it, B, see, this is D, D7. I think it's D, E, sorry, E and C. E and C7 as Boolean. So let's run this. Refresh complete. Okay, let me delete it first. Let me run it again. Where is it? Sales category. So you can use range instead of cells. And it will be easier to
You need to use
read.
quotes, right?
For the cell names, yes, because now it's I7. It's not like row I. So this is two ways to do it. Either you can, because actually it tells you as soon as you open the bracket for cells, it tells you need a row index and column index. That means you need two numbers.
For range, we have to put in inverted quotes.
Yes, these are two double quotes because this is the kind of a text. Yes, Maya.
So instead of saying I7, I could have given I7 colon like I10. That gives me instead of.
Yeah, but then they'll get the same answer because you'll have the input as of only two cells.
Similarly,
So after the midterm, this is where the loops comes into place. Use a loop. So to apply this to all, then we create a loop that goes through all these rows from 7 to 14, and based on that, then 7 becomes a variable. This will be 7, and then 8, and then 9. We'll see how we can apply that using one line of code, where instead of 7, it will be a variable, and the value of that variable will go from 7 to 14. So you don't have to create one statement for every single row. But this is the logic. Is it too complicated?
Yeah.
Of course it is. So I'm not going to ask for this in the midterm for the macros and how do you call a function from a macro. But this is definitely, no, but it's definitely going to be in the final. So for the midterm, only is going to be in the VBA part up to, you have the user-defined functions and conditional statements and or operators within the conditional statements. Okay, we're gonna do a review on Wednesday. Today's a Monday.
How many parts the midterm will have? It's like many parts or parts of the sub parts?
TBD, but typically there's like 3 or 4 separate questions.
Will you be able to finish it in 1 hour?
Hope so. It'd be lucky if you do. No, I'm kidding. I'm just. No, some of you will, some of you won't. I can't guarantee that all of you will. So, hold on. Just let me. Just quickly, let me see the head count. 1 second. Let me close this first.